Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to look at Bitcoin, and we're actually going to be flipping the price upside down. So if you guys like this content, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel in the description below if you guys want to talk about these charts. So we're going to pull up TradingView today. I know some of you guys like it when I pull TradingView up. Before we flip the chart, we're first gonna just look to see where these moving averages are, because we know we've looked historically speaking, these averages could be our line of support if we were to to fall to these regions. The 50-week, if you're unfamiliar with TradingView, the 50-week moving average is currently just under 8,700. So look to this region if we fall. I mean, I'm certainly not saying that we have to fall. If you look at the daily time frame over the last several weeks or so, you can see that we've definitely hit this region multiple times. You can see our current price. We've had wicks to these regions several times already. There's no guarantee we're going to drop back down to the 50-week moving average. But with that said, if we do, it's just be prepared for it. Dropping down to the 50-week from where we currently are would come with a drop of another 5%. So really not that far. 5% drops in Bitcoin are, they happen all the time. It's nothing really that remarkable. Now to the 20-week moving average, which is our line of support during a bull market. We haven't tested the 20-week yet since we broke it. There's no telling if we're going to test it tomorrow, today, next week, next month. We might not test it for 6 months. But it's something we will have to test at some point, and based on historical trends, it seems like it would be something we would want to hold for confidence to really return to the market, and then Bitcoin confidently make the move to 20K. If we drop back below the 20-week, then we're essentially kicking the can down the road. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. We already anticipate that the next cycle is going to take a longer period of time. We don't expect peaks in 2021, like a lot of people who say believe in the 4-year cycle. We don't go with that. We go with the data. The data suggests otherwise. Now, if you look to say go to the 20-week moving average, it is a 10% drop. So going to the 50-week would be a 5% drop from here. Going to the 20-week would be a 10% drop from here. Now, our baseline of support that Bitcoin has basically always held, except for some wicks slightly below, as well as maybe some bodies of candles that slightly go below the 200-week moving average, as you can see over here. But what if we were to drop to this region? Where would we, in terms of the price, what would be our percent drop? So to get back to that point, it's a 33% drop. And that might sound like a lot, but again, dropping to the 200-week moving average is something that is always on the cards with Bitcoin. You always have to be prepared for it. So I think maybe I'll come back to talk about this chart in a little bit, but let's look at the inverse of price. So here instead of normally you would see the price as it increases, it goes up. Instead, you can see you can see the price is actually decreasing as you go up on this scale. Now, one of the reasons I like to do this is because I feel like looking at things in different ways can really challenge your own expectations of what you perceive to be going on in the market. And it's easy to pull up a Bitcoin chart and to draw, say, bullish trend lines and say that we have to go up in the short term. But you can also do the same thing when when you plot the inverse. I mean, here, we're not plotting like the inverse of Bitcoin. We're plotting it essentially where it's upside down. So the price, as you go down this chart, the price is getting higher. But if you can imagine just drawing, say, like a trend line like that, right? Like this is a trend line that takes us from 2018 all the way up, and by looking at this trend line, you might say, well, it looks like we're going to continue on this path. Well, if we were to continue on that path, then that means we're going up here, which means that we would be moving back. It'd basically be bleeding to fiat. So again, these lines it's not hard to draw them. You'll see a lot of people draw them. I draw them from time to time. The main reason I draw them is just because it seems like most every other person seems to find them important. I don't think they're that important. But anyways, this is one of those imaginary lines you could draw against Bitcoin here, and note that the price of Bitcoin is getting lower. Okay, so if we were to pop up off of this trend line and come up, then if we were to go to the 200-week moving average, it would take us to this region here. Now the question is, how long will it take us to break below? Because you can see during our last market cycle, we came up, we sort of formed this concave down pattern right here over the duration of from the peak to then reaching our next all-time high, and then continuing on down to the next paradigm shift. So let's take a measured move. If we take a measured move, let's take say like the candle here. And we know the peak was around 1170. How long did it take us to get back to that peak? In the last market cycle, you can see it took almost 1,200 days. And actually, it was a pretty nice symmetrical move here when you plot it like this. Now, what about present day? How long has it been for present day? How long have we been going since this peak? So if we take another measured move and say go from this peak and go over, if we were to go over say 1197 days from the last peak, then it would put us getting to our previous all-time high in March of 2021. If it took the same amount of time to go from our last all-time high to reaching that all-time high again, because $20,000 is obviously a huge milestone that Bitcoin will have to it will have to overcome at some point. But if you just draw this out to say 1197 days, you can see that March of 2021 is where we would need to be in order to to follow this pattern. And then if we did get there by March of 2021, then we might see, then it's possible that we could see it, rapidly move up in the short term, and then the 4-year cycle theorists can pat themselves on the back. More realistically speaking, if we were to extend this out, we know our fair valuation fit on our logarithmic regression equation. It seems to be that we would likely get there by this point. So by the end of December 2021, maybe January 2022, sometime in that time frame. So we're looking at maybe an extra year to get to our previous all-time high over the last year. So if we were to maybe draw this out, what happens in the short term, whether we go up or down, again, we know it's not really that relevant. But the move to 20K is going to be a long grind. Okay. So then when you get to this point, let's say we get to this point by the first quarter of 2022, and we then accelerate. So you can see here from the last market cycle, we kind of had our move up to the previous all-time high, and then once we got to that point, our next move up was the slope was a lot steeper. So we were able to rapidly accelerate to 20K once we got to our previous all-time high. So we also know that macro level volatility is decreasing. So if we draw a trend line to maybe our next reaching 20K, which would be somewhere out way over here, then you can see our slope here. And then if we were to extend this down, where might we be? Again, we know that maybe 2023 is our general timeline, and maybe getting to a price of around $120,000 or so. I'm going to go ahead and say speculate. I mean, this is not financial advice, but I'm going to speculate August of 2023 at a price of around $124,000 or so. So you can see that our slope from our first, our slow grind back up to our previous all-time high will have been not as steep, and then our expansion, our rapid acceleration after that will also not be as steep. And the market's becoming more efficient, investors are becoming more aware you would not expect things to remain as volatile as we continue marching forward through time. So, and if it's interesting too, if you just take a measured move from the bottom to the top, we saw. I mean, and again, remember this is flipping Bitcoin, so that you're looking at it with price moving up. This was or price moving from price to move up. It has to actually go down on the chart. So here you can see that it took around 413 days, and we saw an 85% drop or so. I didn't draw the move exactly, and then here it was a approximately the same type of drop in a shorter period of time too. But again, we've seen similar types of moves from each cycle, but the grind to our previous all-time high is going to take a bit longer this time around. In order for us to get to our previous all-time high by March of 2021, I mean, we really need to start moving, because we would not move straight there. I mean, we might move to 12K and then come back down to 10 and moved out to 14, and there's going to be a lot of corrections on the way. If you go back over here and look at the last move we had in the last market cycle, you can see that during this slow grind there were several corrections back up. You can see that. So we would expect this to happen as well. These corrections and these moves are going to take place over weeks and months. And March of 2021, I know it, for the most part, I think people think that 2021 is like this far off dream year because Bitcoin is supposedly going to peak then. But 2021 isn't that far away. I mean, we're already halfway through 2020. So you just take this into consideration, I guess. If we go back to, to this chart, I just want to reiterate that these price points here, are key. The 20-week moving average is certainly something we need to hold in order to really say, okay, the bull market has started. If you see Bitcoin go below the 50-week, I anticipate that a lot of altcoins are not going to see those pumps like they have been. If you've been following the markets, that a lot of coins have been moving, up 2 or 3x over the last few weeks. Some have gone up even more than that. If you see Bitcoin dropping below the 50-week and heading back down to the 20-week, I would anticipate most of these moves are gonna dry up. Some of the gains from those coins could be erased. Not entirely, and not all coins, of course. I mean, there's newer coins tend to be in their price discovery phase, and they don't always move with respect to Bitcoin. But certainly older coins, if we're talking about, say, like Ethereum, or some of those older coins, like, they're likely going to follow Bitcoin's movement. So moving below the 50-week, it's not really the end of the world, obviously. Moving below the 20-week, this is when, again, personally, I would be looking to consolidate my positions. I do hold, coins besides Bitcoin right now. I do hold Ethereum and a few other coins. If you follow the channel, I'm sure you're aware. But holding a lot of these coins when Bitcoin, if it were to go below the 20-week and start heading back down this way, I don't think would be very smart. And so this is why I would consolidate at that point. So, stay level-headed. There's no reason to to get worked up over a price move. I mean, we're still around $9,000. Even if we go to 8,200, Bitcoin I think is still doing okay in the short term. A drop below 8,200, then you might want to consider how you want to handle that, because if you see us drop below, if you imagine, say, a move like this down to the 20-week moving average, okay, and then once we get there, if we were to slowly grind back down to the 200-week, and maybe by that point it's 6,500, and then we come back up, if you see this would be something you would want to take advantage of, like at this point here. This is something I would consider a gift from Bitcoin to give an opportunity like that again. So don't necessarily expect it to happen, but if it does, be ready for it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the channel. I hope looking at Bitcoin in this way was a little bit entertaining. If you do like the content, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Also, check out the Telegram channel, and we do have a premium list if you want to check that out at intothecryptoverse.com. That'll wrap it up for this video. I will see you guys next time. Bye.